Harriet Lowe had given 15 years of her life to another woman's house, and the day after they put old Mrs. Renwick in the cold prairie dirt, the old woman's nephew turned Harriet out onto the road with one canvas bag and the wool dress she stood in. By dusk, she had walked far enough from the town of Creswell to understand that for the first time in 38 years, she had nowhere on earth to lay her head. She had gone into domestic service as a girl of 15 and into Mrs. Renwick's sprawling house at 23. For 15 years, Harriet had been the grand, lonely lady's housekeeper, nurse, reader, and card partner. And though neither of them ever spoke the word aloud, both being far too proud, her quiet companion, Harriet had dressed the old woman's thinning hair, held her hand through the long final illness, and closed her eyes at the end. Mrs. Renwick had told her more than once, in the hard, plain way of the frontier, that Harriet was never to worry about her future, that 15 years of devotion did not go unpaid in a Christian country. Harriet had believed her, because you believe the people you care for. Then came Mortimer Renwick from the city. Mortimer did not believe in unpaid devotion or anything else that cost him $1. He went through his aunt's home like a tax collector. The small keepsakes the old woman had pressed on Harriet over the years, a silver brooch, a wool shawl, and carved workbox, Mortimer confiscated as estate property. He went so far as to make Harriet dump her canvas bag onto the parlor floor to be searched, as though 15 years of faithful service had merely been a long preparation for theft. He gave her a single week's wages, informed her the house had no further need of a servant, and ordered her off the property before nightfall. Harriet walked out into the gathering dark with a cold, hollow disbelief, realizing that in the ledger of the man holding the keys, her 15 years of life were worth precisely nothing. She walked because sitting on the roadside in the freezing dusk felt like the final surrender, and she was not quite ready for that. She had no kin, no money, and no destination. The rancher came upon her where the rutted town road crossed the open range, riding home in the lingering twilight. He slowed his big gelding and looked at her, a respectable woman, alone on a desolate road, at dark, with a carpetbag, a sight that meant only a few sorrowful things. He pulled up his horse, took off his hat, and looked at her with a calm, considering face. "Ma'am," he said. He was a weathered man of about 42, plainly a rancher, with hands hardened by fence wire and winter leather. He did not pry or ask her business. He asked the only question that mattered. "It's coming on full dark, and it's 8 miles to the next settlement. The coyotes out here don't care how decent a woman is. Have you got somewhere to sleep?" Harriet, who had been holding herself upright on nothing but sheer pride since noon, felt the plain kindness of the question cut straight through her defense. "No," she said, saying it aloud for the first time. "No, I haven't. I was turned out of my place this afternoon, after 15 years. I have no kin and nowhere to go, and I've been walking because I couldn't think what else to do with myself. I have nowhere to sleep, sir, and I'd be obliged if you wouldn't pity me, because I don't think I could bear to be pitied just now and still keep standing up." The rancher took that in without a flinch. "I wasn't going to pity you," he said calmly. "I was going to offer you work, if you'll take it, and a dry roof tonight regardless. My name's Cal Brennan. I run cattle 8 miles west. My mother kept my house till she passed 2 years back, and it's gone to rack and ruin since. I'm a poor hand at keeping a home, and I'm tired of living in squalor." He looked at her directly. "There's a dry room off the kitchen that was my mother's, with a heavy oak door that locks from the inside. You'd keep the house and cook. I'd pay a fair weekly wage, and you'd owe me nothing but honest work. Tonight, you'd sleep under a roof instead of out here. I'd consider it a fair bargain for us both. Will you come?" Harriet looked at the big, quiet rancher who offered her work instead of charity and a lock on her door before she had even thought to ask for one. She climbed up into his wagon. The alternative was the ditch, But more than that, something in the level way he spoke made her believe that not every house in the West used people up and threw them away. She never left the ranch again. Cal had not exaggerated the squalor. The house was sturdy timber, but neglected. A good home, gone feral around a lonely man who merely slept and ate there. Harriet looked at the dirt the next morning and felt the first stirrings of the only thing that had ever saved her: useful work. She scrubbed 2 years of bachelor grease out of the floorboards, aired the rooms, and cooked Cal the first proper hot meal he had eaten since his mother died. Within 2 weeks, the dark house became a place a man hurried home to. One morning, Cal came in from the calving barn to find the kitchen warm, fresh bread on the sideboard, and his mother's good blue willow dishes, which had sat buried in a dark cupboard for 2 years, washed and set out on the table. Cal stood in the doorway with his hat in his hand, looked at the table for a long moment, and then had to turn right back out to the barn for something that did not need fetching. Harriet understood then that using those dishes had touched something deep inside him, and she was careful to use them every day after. It was an unspoken conversation between two quiet people, and it suited them both. It was the loom, however, that gave Harriet back her soul. She found it in a shed behind the barn under a canvas tarp, and 10 years of prairie dust. A magnificent 4-harness floor loom that had belonged to Cal's mother, who had been a master weaver. Weaving had been Harriet's true passion, a craft she had practiced for years in Mrs. Renwick's morning room. When Cal found her standing over the wood, she told him softly that weaving was the one thing she did better than anything else in the world. Without a word, Cal spent the entire next 3 days clearing out the shed, mending the loom's broken treadles, glazing a new window pane to let in the light, and installing a small iron stove. He gave the loom to her outright and told her the wool from his sheep was plentiful, and that whatever she wove was hers to sell and keep the profit from. Under Harriet's skilled hands, the loom sang day and night. The heavy overshot coverlets and fine woven wool blankets she produced were so breathtaking that ranch wives from 3 townships rode out to buy them. Soon, the dry goods merchant in the county seat contracted for everything she could make. The penniless companion who had been thrown out on the road was suddenly earning her own real income, making her own way through her own craft. 2 months later, Mrs. Pruitt, a righteous busybody from Creswell, drove out to the ranch to express her grave concern over appearances. She found Harriet in the sunlit weaving shed, shuttling dyed yarn through the warp. "Harriet," Mrs. Pruitt said, her lips pursed tight. "A single woman, living out on a bachelor's cattle place. The whole parish is talking. You were turned out under a cloud once already, and a woman in your position cannot afford scandal. It looks disgraceful." Harriet did not let the shuttle miss a single beat. "Mrs. Pruitt," she said levelly, "I was turned out under no cloud but a greedy heir's convenience. Mr. Brennan gave me honest work, a locked door, and his mother's loom, and he has treated me with unblemished respect. That is far more than I can say for the respectable town that watched me walk out into the dark without offering a hand. The town may talk as it pleases. I have learned its opinion is worth nothing, and I can manage fine without it." Mrs. Pruitt left without another word. The turn came in late winter. Cal had taken to sitting in the weaving shed of an evening, while Harriet worked, mending harness leather by the stove, just to share the warmth and the rhythmic beat of the loom. One evening, he looked up at her and said in his plain way, "When my mother passed, this place went quiet in a way I couldn't fix. I hired a housekeeper, Harriet, but somewhere back in the autumn, I stopped thinking of you that way. The house isn't quiet anymore, and I find I can't stand the thought of it ever going cold again, which it would if you left." Harriet stopped her shuttle and laid her hand over his rough fingers on the loom frame. Neither spoke another word that night, but the unsaid thing sat easy and warm between them. A month later, the truth about old Mrs. Renwick's estate finally came to light. The old woman's city lawyer, Mr. Tillman, tracked Harriet down at the ranch. Mrs. Renwick had not lied to her. 18 months before her death, she had executed a formal codicil to her will, leaving Harriet $2,000 in cash, the small cottage on Quince Street, and her own personal loom in gratitude for 15 years of unselfish devotion. Mortimer Renwick had found the family copy of the document, burned it, and chased Harriet off before she could learn of it, unaware that the lawyer held the legally binding original in his safe. Mortimer was forced by the court to hand over the money and the deed immediately to avoid a prison sentence for fraud. Harriet sat at Cal's kitchen table with the bank draft and the house deed in her hands, weeping quietly, not for the wealth, but for the knowledge that the woman she had cared for had truly loved her, and that her 15 years of service had not been built on a lie. That evening, Cal walked out with her onto the porch under a clear sky. He was careful to stand a respectful distance away. "I waited on purpose until the money and the deed came through," Cal said, his voice steady despite the tension in his shoulders. "I wouldn't have you ever feel you had to stay because you had nowhere else to go. You have $2,000 now, a house of your own in town, and a trade that will keep you comfortable anywhere in the territory. You don't need this ranch, and you don't need me." He took her hands gently in his own. "So I can ask you now, free and clear, marry me, Harriet, not for a roof or a wage, but because you turned a cold, dead house into a home, and because I love you. Stay because you choose it." Harriet looked at the man who had stopped on a dark road when she was broken, who had given her a locked door and a loom, and who had waited until she was completely independent before asking for her heart. "I have a house on Quince Street," Harriet said softly, a warm smile breaking across her face. "I believe I'll rent it out to the new school teacher. I find I have no use for a house in town, because my home is right here. Yes, Cal, I choose you." They were married that spring in the weaving shed, surrounded by the bright, beautiful coverlets hung upon the timber walls. They lived out a long, warm, and prosperous life together on the ranch, raising children and opening their doors to every castaway woman who needed shelter from the world's coldness. Framed above Harriet's loom hung the handwritten codicil from Mrs. Renwick, reminding her every day that true worth is never determined by those who try to steal it, and that the best home is the one you choose for yourself. If this one warmed you tonight, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I hope it found you well. I'll see you in the next one.